Hello there. Welcome back to Accounting Space. In this video, we want to look at an April common test. So we are going to look going to our question. We are going to look at section A, whereby it's going to note that section A question reads A next to 5. So you are given this question from its owner is capital. So you see that response. So remember that labor is also described as a factor that explains the human element, and it involves human effort and skills which are influenced by individual abilities, and also motivations, and also it also includes experiences. So you'd see that a labor, unlike land or capital, labor cannot be separated from the individual providing it. So that's the most appropriate response that we have according to our response that we have. So we are having a B as the correct response. So we go to 1.1.2, whereby it reads goods that are used to schools. So you see that according to the response given, the correct response that we have is intermediate goods. So we can just indicate our intermediate goods. And we have to take note that when we are talking about intermediate goods, these are unfinished items that comprise parts of production. So anything that comprise parts of production and they come as unfinished items, we call them intermediate goods. So this is exactly as the question is trying to illustrate, as the question is saying, goods that are used to manufacture other goods and provide services are called goods. So you see that intermediate goods also, they are used as inputs in the production of other goods. So basically that's what we have on 1.1.2. Then we move on to the next question, which is going to be 1.1.3. It reads, an economic system that uses the forces of demand and supply to allocate resources is called a dash economy. And we know that this is the free market economy, and that's the one that uses forces of demand and supply to allocate resources. So 1.1.3, we have our response is free market economy. Then we move on to 1.1.4, construction services, tertiary and secondary. But we know that construction is part of secondary sector. Remember, the secondary sector, it's mainly described by the role of manufacturing and also comprises the construction. So basically, we have D as the correct response. Then move on to the next question, 1.1.5. It reads, a method of measuring gross domestic product that adds up the total remuneration for all the factors of production is called dash method. So obviously, according to responses given, we have D, which is income, as the correct response. So we are saying the income method is the one that's production. So the remuneration now is the income. So basically, that's what we have. So this is what we have on the first part, the matching words. So it is in column A, right? Only the letter A 1.2. Term that we have is capital dependent. So you see that according to responses given, we have got our responses coming from A to G. So we can select which one is the most appropriate. So you see that C is the most appropriate, which is saying stock of a country's production resources is above the size of labor force. So we are having a country's production resources being above the size of labor force. So countries' production resources they come as capital. So we are saying capital being above the size of labor force. So basically, we can also try to describe capital depending as a situation whereby the capital per worker is increasing in the economy. So it also explains that, and also it can be increased in the capital to labor ratio. So the increase in the capital to labor ratio can also define capital depending, whereby capital stock increase. So basically, that's what we had. So basically, the country's production resources are being referred to is capital. So we have C being we have quoted capital depending. We are saying C is the correct response. So we can present our C. Then market price, which one is market price by consumers. So basically, we have a combination of the central plan giving central planning to exploitative operations. Basically, exploitative operations what we are trying, what the basic explanation that we can give in terms of exploitative operations that is the use of something in order to get an advantage from it. So when you are trying to get an advantage from it, it becomes exploitative. So exploitative operations. So if you go to F becomes the most appropriate, which reads economic activities that cannot return to nature. Um, uh, it reads economic activities that cannot return to nature what they have taken from it. So basically, this now becomes an explanation that is explaining an element of taking advantage. So we have F here explaining exploitative operations. So we can just, but basically, explanation will also just say that this is basically a group of people, and we often call it a family who live together. It becomes a household. So we try to see which explanation is responses. So basically, we also have our responses are going down to G. So we can just try to pick the most appropriate explanation that we have. So if you go down, you'd see that B becomes the appropriate response that we have, which says account for the largest part of total expenditure in the column. So basically, you'd see that households account for the largest part of total expenditure in the economy. So obviously, we take that as the appropriate response, which is B. We go to 6, which is saying manufacturing. And manufacturing basically is the creation or the production of goods with the help of obviously equipment. We can also have the help of labor or machines. So basically, but the basic is that there is production that is taking place when there's manufacturing. So according to the response given again, sector, we know that manufacturing. So basically, we have G as the appropriate response. Then this becomes the last one on our matching section. Then we go to 1.3. Keep one term for each of the following descriptions. Write only the term next to the question number, that is 1.3.1 up to 1.3.4 in the answer book. Acronyms and abbreviations will not be accepted. So we can take note of that. Then 1.3.1, people who are excluded from mainstream economic activities and are seen as worse off when compared to others. So we see that 1.3.1, these are called marginalized groups. These marginalized groups. So we can just say 1.3.1. We are saying the correct response that we have is marginalized groups. The use of checks to provide public goods and services. I would say that this is a government expenditure. Remember, there is an element of spending the revenue that has been collected by through taxation. So basically, that is a government expenditure. So also, we can also try to further explain in terms of exactly what is government expenditure. You would see that government expenditure basically is money spent by the public sector on the acquisition of goods and provision of services. We can talk about education, spending on education services, healthcare services is also part of government expenditure. So basically, this is the explanation that we are having here. So 1.3.2, we are saying this is government. Then go to the next part where you're saying it's communal property. So we can try to also identify which economic system can be viewed as communal. So centrally planned e.g. banking. So we can just refer it to the tertiary sector, whereby we're having 1.3.4, and we're saying it's the tertiary sector. So basically, that's what we have. And this becomes the last question. 20 marks. So this is what we have, guys, according in this video. And please, let's not forget to subscribe and share to our channel. Hopefully the video was helpful, and let's meet again in the next video. As for this video, I'm signing out.